Hi everyone, welcome to the Google Digital Garage and welcome to Build a CV and Write a Cover Letter. My name is Zoe. I'm going to be taking you through this in-depth and wonderful subject. Before I start though, I just want to make sure that everyone can see and hear me and that I'm not completely silent or blurry or anything like that. If you're having any problems with your sound or with your picture or anything at all, the best thing you can do is just refresh your page. That fixes most issues we tend to find. If you're still having problems, if you hover your mouse pointer over the YouTube video, or if you tap it if you're on a mobile, you should be able to see a little cog in the bottom right corner. That's where you can access all your YouTube settings. And if you maybe turn down the quality, it will help with buffering, and you can fiddle about with those so that it works. That's also where you access captions, which should be working for this video. And it's also where you can make sure that you are watching this live if there has been a slight delay. So hopefully that means everybody can see and hear me wonderfully, so we can get on with the session. So welcome. As I mentioned before, my name is Zoe. I'm one of the trainers for the Google Digital Garage, and I'm here to talk to you all about building a CV and writing a cover letter. Just a bit about myself. So I am a digital marketer. I've been a digital marketer for just over 10 years. It was my 10-year anniversary last month, my marketing versary. In that time, I've worked for small agencies, I've worked as a freelancer, and I now work as the owner of my own little business that I run with a partner. So I've got a lot of experience of digital marketing from a whole wide range of different points of view. Certainly at various points as part of my career, I've been in charge of recruitment, I've been in charge of managing teams. And so I've kind of seen both sides of CVs and cover letters. I've given them out. I've given plenty of CVs and cover letters out, as I'm sure most of us have. But I've also been the one in charge of looking at them and deciding who to hire based on them. So hopefully I've got some useful experience there that I can share with all of you today and help you with your own CVs and cover letters. Now, I am not alone. I am joined by the capable, wonderful, fabulous Benedict. Benedict is our moderator for today. What that means is that Benedict is going to be in the chat, which hopefully you should be able to see. Usually it's just on the right-hand side of the video, but might depend on your device. And Benedict's going to be there to ask you all questions, such as what's your name and where are you signing on from? Which I believe he's already asked. But he's also going to be answering questions that you have and as well sharing helpful tips, helpful links, basically anything he wants to share. But that means that if you have questions, if you're not sure about something, if you're not sure how something that I say applies to you specifically, if something I've said isn't very clear, anything at all that you want to ask about, Benedict is the person you can ask. So he is down there in the chat waiting to help you out. He is another Google Digital Garage coach. He's another experienced trainer who knows all about this stuff. So do get in touch with him if you're not sure about anything. Just to let you know as well, we are going to be pausing for some more complex questions. And also we're going to be running this as part of a broader offering of Digital Garage courses. We've got loads and loads of different webinars. We've got some on sort of building your own kind of personal brand and finding what your career goals are. So loads of things that would be really useful if you're coming to this session. So do check out the link in the video description. That'll show you all of our webinars that we have available at the minute. So today we have got a few objectives. We have got 3 objectives to be specific. So number 1, we're going to look at what exactly recruiters are looking for in a CV. When you send them out, what is it that a recruiter is trying to get when they look at your CVs? Number 2, we want to make a really great first impression. So how do we do that with a cover letter? And we'll talk about whether you should be sending cover letters or not as well. And then finally, we're going to look at the actual practical part of designing and writing your CV. How do we do that to make your skills really come across, to make your skills really pop, and to make an employer really want to hire you, because that is, after all, the point of a CV. So, question for you all before we start. What are your 3 most valuable professional skills? Now, with any question that I ask you, I might move on just because there is a delay between me speaking and you actually getting that through your machine. So if I sort of sit here and wait for answers, we could be waiting a long time, and I'm sure there's a better use of your time than watching me wait for you. But do answer the question, even if I have moved on. I'd really like to hear it, and as soon as I get some answers, I'll of course address them. Your 3 most valuable professional skills. Now, that's a really difficult one to answer. It obviously depends on the career you're going for, of course. So, for example, if I was to think about myself, well, my most valuable professional skills, well, in my spare time, I am a self-defense instructor. So if I was to choose my 3 most valuable professional skills, number 1, I've got a qualification in that. So self-defense instruction, that's a nice, hard, solid skill I've got that I can say I definitely have. Number 2, I might say training ability. I'm a good trainer. That's why I'm here in front of a webcam talking to you all. I'm a decent trainer. Hopefully you agree. Hopefully by the end of the session, at least, you will agree. And number 3, I'm a good martial artist. There we go. That's 3 very valuable professional skills for me that I can put on my CV to say, here's why I should train you in self-defense, because I've got those particular skills. That's just obviously one small aspect of my my career, and obviously we've all got different careers and different skills that we might want to put on our CVs, put on our cover letters, and really get that across. So have a think and let me know in the chat, what are your 3 most valuable professional skills? Now, as I mentioned, moving on, because I don't know when we're going to get some answers. Oh, I've just got some answers. So Siapa Queen, Amina says that your skills are graphic design, video editing, and email design. Brilliant. So that's a nice sort of triple threat there that are all quite linked together as well. You know, graphic design, video editing, email designing, you could do a lot with them in marketing. You could do a lot with them in sort of creative fields. Maybe graphic design specifically, maybe you could be designing adverts, you could be designing logos. So they complement each other really well. So that's a good trio of skills to have. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, of course, for answering. So let's look at what recruiters are looking for in a CV then. So the average recruiter only spends 7 seconds reading a CV. And that's the average. That means for at least half of the CVs that they read, they're going to be spending less time than 7 seconds. That's because most recruiters, they can look at a CV and immediately know whether or not they're going to go forward with that application. That could be because of something simple. It could be that you've put a spelling mistake in the top line of your CV. So they just have to glance at that and go, well, I don't want to hire someone who doesn't check their work for spelling mistakes. Often recruiters have got tens, hundreds of CVs to look through. So they might be, willing to throw some CVs away for very small things just because they need to cut down that field somehow. Maybe they're looking for a very specific qualification or skill. Maybe it's just that they can start reading the CV and go, you know what, not for me, and then immediately decide whether or not they're going to go ahead with it. So you don't have a lot of time. So we need to grab our recruiters' attentions straight away. What is it that we want to get across, and how do we do it? Things that recruiters are looking for. There is a big emphasis at the minute on cultural fit. So do you fit in with a company culture? Companies can basically get the specific skills they're looking for anywhere. If I was recruiting somebody, if I was recruiting a graphic designer, let's say, and I'm looking over a lot of people's CVs, most of them will have some good graphic design skills. So how do I tell them apart when they've all got very good skills? Well, one way I could do it is basically, how do I think they'll fit in with our company culture? It's a really common way that recruiters narrow down their field of applicants. Another thing to bear in mind is that, like a lot of things, recruitment is going digital, and it's focusing on automation and using AI tools, or you might see something called ATS, which stands for applicant tracking software. So a lot of the things that an HR department or a recruitment agency would have done are now done by job boards, by even LinkedIn, by artificial intelligence, and by automated tools. That's really great for HR professionals because it saves a lot of time, but it does mean that we have to be a little bit careful about how we structure our CVs, because we need to get picked up by those artificial intelligences, by those applicant tracking software. Diversity and inclusion as well. Organizations really value diverse teams. There's a lot of research that's come out on the value of having a diverse team. And that means that there's a good understanding of changing hiring processes to ensure they are more diverse. And this can conflict with that applicant tracking software because it can be seen that, you know, leaving things up to algorithms, leaving things up to computers can mean that we're kind of automating the same prejudices that real life recruiters had and not really thinking about it. So there's a bit of conflict there. And of course, that means it is data driven. Now, some people say that data can limit the chance of discrimination because we can focus purely on skills rather than focusing on the irrelevant parts of an employer's CV. Some people say it's the opposite, but it can be really positive for applicants because you are more likely to be judged based on your skills than on something that shouldn't be a factor, like your name or your nationality or something like that. So what recruiters are looking for then? Number one, we're looking for clear strengths. What is it that you can do for that business specifically? Or what is it that you specifically can do for that business? They're looking to immediately be able to see, like, what can this person do? What is this person really good at? What is this person better at than other applicants? The way that we show this, a really good way of showing this, is with metrics. So metrics are basically numbers. Any number that you can attach to your successes is going to be fantastic for a recruiter to see. Instead of saying, well, while I was managing sales for my previous job, I increased sales. I was good at sales. That's fine. I'm sure that's a really good achievement. But how much did you increase sales by? Could you say you increased them by 20% in the 2 years that you were there? Could you say that you increased them by a specific number? You know, you saw sales rise for an average of £1,000 a month to an average of £1,500 per month. You know, can we attach a number? Because that's going to really help that recruiter work out how much value you could add to that company. They want to see your CV has been tailored specifically to that job role. So customized so that it matches matches the role even better. We don't want to just be giving out a general CV for every single job. We want to really be customizing it so it meets the specific metrics that the recruiters are looking for. If you look at the job advert or the job description, you'll see that they give a kind of a list of the qualities that they're looking for. They want you to show that you are hardworking, that you have this qualification, that you have experience in this field, and so on and so forth. So you need to show those things in your CV. You need to put them first and foremost. You need to use the language that the job description uses, because that's going to show not only that you've read the job description, but it's also going to be very clear, I have this thing that you're looking for. Make sure you're following instructions. That means that you have to do what the job application is asking you to do, which might sound simple, but a lot of people fall down at this step because they think, oh, well, I need to apply for this job. I need to send over a CV and a cover letter. So you do that. You email the hiring manager a CV and a cover letter. Only maybe in the job description it said, don't email us a CV and a cover letter. Please apply through LinkedIn. In which case you've just shown that you're not able to follow instructions just by missing that one little thing. So do check every job application. How do they want you to apply? What do they want you to do? And make sure you're following that. And then, of course, adaptability and agility. Organizations don't necessarily want someone who's just going to do the same role day in, day out. They want someone who's going to be capable of rising to new challenges and capable of taking on new roles, because the fact of the matter is a lot of industries are changing really, really fast. I mean, think about artificial intelligence. In the last year, my personal job, so I do a little bit of writing, in the last year, that's changed completely because so many people are now using artificial intelligence to write things for them. So my job has had to change. Instead of marketing myself as a marketing writer, I've had to market myself as somebody who will go over AI writing and check it for accuracy and check it for mistakes, because so many people would rather use an AI to write something and then get me to check it rather than just get me to write it in the first place. As it turns out, I charge about the same amount because it takes about the same amount of time. So I'm happy either way. But I've had to adapt to that changing market. If I was just a writer, if I said, well, I only write, I don't proofread, well, then I would be out of a job, essentially. So it's important to be able to adapt. It's important to be able to show that you are capable of doing that. I've just seen that we have someone else who's answered our little question. That's Comfort from England. Hi, Comfort. Thank you for joining us today. Your skills are digital marketing, video editing, and graphic designing. So similar to Amina up above. And again, really good combination. Video editing and graphic design is something I wish that I had got into, because they are a lot better, a lot more stable at the minute than writing is. That's a really good combination, because you can basically, same with you, Amina, you could basically come up with an entire website all on your own. You could do the graphic design, you could do the video editing if you want to put any videos on there, and you could market it. And that's really valuable for a client. So yeah, great set of skills there. So in terms of automation of recruitment, we've got a few different things to bear in mind. So basically, job boards are things that have sort of spurred this on. And that's things like Indeed is a job board, Monster is a job board, Google Jobs is a job board. We'll look at that in a second. And they advertise jobs and they help employers find candidates. And basically, you apply through the website using their software. Now, sometimes they go through they use your CV. They ask you to upload your CV. Sometimes, on the other hand, they ask you to fill out specifically what your skills are, what your experience is. LinkedIn is a great example of that. It's a little bit more than a job board, but if anybody uses LinkedIn, you'll know that you have to put your skills down, that you have to put your experience down. And that means that LinkedIn can match you to roles, can automate that part of it. That's really useful for you as somebody who's looking for a job, because LinkedIn itself is going to be pointing you towards jobs that match the skills that you have. And employers are going to be specifically searching for those skills. Anyone who's applied for a job with LinkedIn will know that some jobs actually list skills that you can put on LinkedIn. So you can see, well, you match, you've got 10 out of the 15 skills that this employer is looking for. They also use recruitment software. And what this does is basically, often this is for people who send CVs in directly through email to an employer. They'll screen them through recruitment software. And that software is basically looking for keywords. So if they have said, I want someone with a BTEC level 3 in, let's say, video editing to match Comfort and Amina. They say, we want someone with a BTEC level 3 in video editing. They can set their recruitment software to scan for the words BTEC level 3 video and editing. And then they can automatically flag up any CVs that have those. So they can immediately, within seconds, get a short list of all the people who have that qualification. Similarly, they can look for people who've mentioned things like determined, hardworking, flexible, the skills that they want. And of course, all of this can be improved with AI. And what that means for you is that you have to really pay attention to what kind of thing your employers might be looking for, because you want to be using those keywords so that you can get found in those searches. Now, an example of a job board is Google Jobs. This is a fantastic place because what it does is it collates a lot of information from different job boards. So you can simply put in, so for example, graphic designer jobs London, relevant to some of the people on this webinar. And it will show you all of the jobs from all of the job boards that it can find that are connected to graphic design and located near London. You can set all sorts of different filters on that. So you can look for remote jobs, you can look for jobs by when they were posted, you can look for jobs that are freelance, and so on and so forth. You can even set alerts for that job. So whenever a graphic designer job comes up near London, Google can email you. So a Google alert can be a great way of getting a regular update on what jobs are available. And of course, there are other online jobs, online job boards. LinkedIn, again, I've mentioned. LinkedIn is fantastic. It's a really good place to get connected with people, but it's also a really great place to connect with employers. And Reed.com is an example of a job board. Again, there's also Indeed, there's Monster, there's, of course, Google Jobs, and all of these work very, very similarly. So if you want to search for jobs, going to a job board is a great place to start, and so is going to LinkedIn. So before we get into our second section, which is writing our cover letter, I can see we have a question from Brownwell. Should you tell a potential employer that you have other offers? Now, Benedict has answered that really well. It does depend on the arrangement. It does depend on how confident that you feel. And yes, just like Benedict says, every employer is going to know that you're going to be looking for other work. They all know that you're not the only person that they've applied for, because most people have sent out CVs to loads and loads and loads of places. The thing that I would bear in mind is that, first of all, do you actually have other offers? If you do have other offers, 100%, yeah, tell them that you have other offers, because you've always got those other offers to fall back on. But if you don't have any other offers, you are taking a risk, because that company, you know, by telling that employer that you have other offers, you're basically telling them that they might have to pay a bit more for you specifically, because there's competition for you. So they might think, well, we don't want to end up getting a bidding war. Maybe we don't have the budget. Maybe we're really looking, you know, we don't actually need someone that experienced. Maybe we can go with someone who's less experienced, but will be cheaper for us, because we don't have the money to match a competitor. So it does sort of depend on the job, depends on everything. But I do think in general, if you do have offers that you would be happy to accept, absolutely tell employers that. And in the spirit of full disclosure, I think that's a good idea. Comfort, I can see as a question. Can I always include my winnings? By winnings, you mean awards and received from previous employers? Yeah, really definitely put those down. You can have a section on your CV dedicated to your achievements. If they're qualifications, if they count as qualifications, you can put those down there in the same place that you would put a degree or GCSEs or a BTEC or anything like that. Yeah, 100%, because they're really good at ways to show that you're great at your job. So definitely put those down in your CV. So writing cover letters, 60% of companies require cover letters, although there is a statistic about 50% of recruiters will just discard a CV that doesn't have a cover letter attached. There's basically not a downside of having a cover letter. You could say, well, 40% of companies don't require them, but honestly, like, if they don't want a cover letter, they just won't look at yours. And if they do want a cover letter and you haven't sent one through, well, obviously that puts you at a disadvantage. So definitely write a cover letter for every role, even if they don't specify that they need one. Write a cover letter down, because it's going to be really, really useful for your application. 83% of hiring managers think that a good cover letter can earn you an interview, even if your CV isn't good enough. So it does make a huge difference. Again, it's your first impression. It's going to make a huge difference as to whether you get hired. So do make sure that you are providing a cover letter in every single situation. And when we say provide a cover letter, we're looking for something specific. We're looking at something, first of all, concise. An employer doesn't want to read 4 pages, all talking about your achievements and so on and so forth. They want to be able to see everything you have to offer in basically 1 page. So be as concise as possible. Often employers will tell you exactly what they're looking for. They might say, we're looking for 1 page or 2 pages or 2 sides of A4 or something like that. Stick to that as a guide. If they don't tell you, I would stick to 1 side of A4. Be as concise as possible, and that is a challenge, because you've got to fit on your achievements and why you should be hired in that 1 page. But it is a really great option in terms of making sure that your potential employer doesn't feel like they have to read loads and loads and loads of information. Make it goal oriented. What are you trying to achieve with that cover letter? You're trying to get hired. What are they looking for in a successful applicant? Show that you have those things. You want it to be relevant, obviously. You know, if you're applying for a job as a teacher, they probably don't want to hear about the 3 years that you spent managing a Starbucks, unless there is something relevant that you can pass on from that. Okay, sure, maybe you didn't teach anybody while you were managing that Starbucks, but maybe you did actually deliver some employee training. Maybe you had to manage people, and you could say that that's similar to managing a classroom. You know, it has to be relevant to the role. You can't just put, I was a manager at Starbucks, and leave it at that, because an employer might look at that and go, well, how is that relevant? So keep everything really relevant to the specific role you're applying for. And of course, be authentic and honest. Never lie in an application. It will always come back to bite you. There is absolutely no good reason to lie in any kind of application. Make sure that everything is honest to yourself. Most of the time, anything that you put that you're potentially lying a little bit about will come out in the interview, because people will ask you about it. So you do want to be really careful with that. So make sure it's authentic to you. So the 5 steps that we're going to take to write a cover letter, that's all we need is 5 different things. Number 1, an introduction. Nice and simple. Number 2, your most relevant experience. And that's going to be the first thing that you put on your cover letter. What is your most relevant piece of experience? Number 3, how are you going to add value to that business specifically? What is it that you can add to the company? Number 4, do you have any relevant qualifications or education that specifically helps you with the role? And number 5, a good, solid professional sign-off. So let's look at each of those in turn. Number 1, our introduction. Here is a good classic introduction. Dear Mrs. Webb, I am a customer assistant currently employed by Smarks. I'd like to apply for the sales advisor role at ThreadOn. I heard about the job through seeing the position advertised on jobmarket.com. Really basic introduction, but it gets to the point. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I'm applying for, and this is where I heard about it. I am a customer assistant employed by Smarks. That's who you are. What do you want and what specific job are you applying for? I'd like to apply for the sales advisor role at ThreadOn, and where I heard about it on jobmarket.com. Nice, simple, it gets across all the information you would want to get across. So that's pretty much all you need from an introduction. Number 2, showcasing your most relevant experience first. So what we want to do is start with positions that are relevant to the role. If you have a similar role, if you've got experience in a similar role to the one you're applying for, that's what you should start with, even if it's not your most recent role. So my experience as a retail assistant at Jones & Sons has prepared me to meet the demands of this exciting role. We just heard that this applicant doesn't currently work for Jones & Sons. They currently work for Smarks. So this isn't their most recent experience, but they think it's the most relevant experience to this role. So that's the most important thing to get across. My experience as a retail assistant at Jones & Sons has prepared me to meet the demands of this exciting role. There, I excelled at customer service and was awarded Employee of the Month 3 times in my first year. So that's why they've put that first, because that's maybe the most impressive piece of experience that they've got, the one that's most relevant for this job. So that's the first thing they want an employer to see. So that's what you should do as well. Demonstrating how you will add value. Well, here we go. My training from the London Sales Forum equipped me with the knowledge needed for the role as sales advisor. I would also bring my professionalism, diplomacy, and enthusiasm to the position. So we're not just saying this is my experience, we're saying here's why that's relevant to this specific job. So my training from the London Sales Forum, I didn't just get training from the London Sales Forum. The important thing about that is that it gave me knowledge that I can then use in this particular role. If you just put, I trained at the London Sales Forum, that's not enough. That's just a piece of information without context. We need to say, and this is why that's good for you, the recruiter or the employer. And then we want to showcase some of our skills. I would also bring my professionalism, diplomacy, and enthusiasm to the position. It would be good to expand on some of those if you've got space, but obviously we want to be concise. Maybe you could say, oh, my mind's gone blank. Maybe we can say that there was a specific incident that happened in your role that showcased your professionalism, diplomacy, and enthusiasm. So you could say, I would also bring my professionalism, diplomacy, and enthusiasm to the position, things that I showcased in this particular incident, and quickly describe that. So again, we're sort of adding evidence there. Qualifications and education, we can add those again only if they're relevant. We don't need to put in the cover letter, I have 8 GCSEs and I have 3 A levels. and I went to this university. We only want to put the things that are most relevant to the job. So in this particular case, in 2022, I graduated from Leeds University with a Bachelor's of Commerce degree. I accomplished this by being self-motivated and target-driven. So maybe we're specifically saying this is why my education is relevant. I was also awarded the Best Pitch Award by the Leeds School of Sales. We're showing these are achievements, these are awards. This is why you're great at what it is that you do. And then finally, we want to remember to sign off. We want to do this politely. We don't want to kind of assume that we've got the role, but we do want to talk in such a way as it makes our employer think we might get the role. So we want to be polite. I would be honored to be considered for this position. That's a really great way of putting it. You know, you're not saying you should give me this permission. You're saying if you did, I would be really honored if you'd at least consider me. I look forward to hearing from you, and please let me know if you'd like any more information about me. We're saying the next steps that you should take. So if you'd like any more information, please let me know. We're telling them this is a thing that you can do. And I look forward to hearing from you. Well, we don't actually know we're going to hear from them. But by putting, I look forward to hearing from you, what we're actually saying is you're going to contact me. But we're trying to do that in a non-pushy way, if that makes sense. So that's a good way of signing off. And then finish it off. Many thanks is really good. Yours sincerely is okay. It may be a little bit too formal, but it's still a very nice, good sign off. Kind regards, again, is maybe a little bit old fashioned. I really like many thanks. I think it's a good way of finishing a CV. Sorry, a cover letter. So top tips, keep it to one page again, like I mentioned. Use the words and phrases in the job description. I mentioned that earlier, but that can never be repeated enough. Your employer is looking for a specific thing. They're looking for determination. They're looking for professionalism. They're looking for diplomacy. If they're using those words, then those are things that you should be using in your cover letter. And of course, make sure you proofread it. Make sure you get a friend to proofread it. Make sure you run it through a spelling and grammar check. Grammarly is a really good tool if anybody hasn't already used it. That's grammar.ly. It's a free spelling extension that you can put on your web browser. But obviously any mistakes that are in your covering letter are the sort of things that will make, because again, remember, recruiters have got so many cover letters to read. They're just basically, they're looking for any reason why they can go, well, you're probably not the right one for us. A spelling mistake is a really common reason they can go, oh, right, they left a spelling mistake in the cover letter. They don't necessarily want this job very much. They don't have good attention to detail. So they can throw the CV in the bin and the cover letter in the bin. And we don't want that. So that's really, really important as well. So number 3, I can see we've had quite some questions. I know Benedict has answered them really, really well. Chiharu has asked about putting gap years, gaps in your resume, in your CV. A lot of employers will actually ask you to explain any gaps in your CV. You can be very honest with this. It's okay though. So for example, I have a gap in my CV. At the time, I was in education and I was also in a band, and I got a little bit of money from that band. So it wasn't enough to live on, but it was enough that I feel confident that I can put in my CV. I do have this gap in my jobs. I have this gap where I didn't have an official job, but during that time, I was making money as part of a touring band. There we go. That's something. It's some kind of experience there. It's not a lie. I was making money. I wasn't maybe making enough to get by, but I was making a little bit of money. So we can try and spin it a little bit while still being honest, because again, it's really important that we don't tell anything that isn't true on our CV, but we can spin a little bit to make it make it a little bit more palatable. Maybe you were focusing on your education. Maybe we can phrase it as, even if it's that you just couldn't get a job in that time, maybe you can phrase it, I was trying to change careers. I was focusing on developing my skills in preparation for a career in this field, something like that. Comfort has mentioned age as a disadvantage in application forms. So yeah, Benedict's answered that really well. It is illegal to discriminate based on age. It's illegal to discriminate based on a lot of things, but employers still do it. I've noticed this a ton. the downside is there's not really much you can do about it. Unless you have to put your age, I would recommend just not putting your age. I don't put my age on my CV. I don't want people necessarily to look at that and go, because I'm over 30. So I don't want people to look at that and go, well, we don't want someone over 30. But if you have to put your age range, put your age range down. Often it's not anything sinister. Often it is just that they want to be able to say that they're interviewing a diverse range of candidates. So they do want people from different age groups. So it can be an advantage. But yeah, I would avoid doing it unless you have to. Margot has asked what the difference between hard and soft skills are. Margot, that's actually coming up. So that's a fantastic question, and I'm not going to answer it now because we're about to answer it. So, good question. It's always great when people ask things that are already in the presentation, because it means we're on the right lines. But yeah, we are going to talk about those in a second. Brilliant. So that looks like all of the questions. Thank you so much, Benedict, for all your answers there as well. Brilliant. Let's move on to designing and writing our CV then. So information that needs to come in our CV. We've got basic information. This is our date of birth. Sorry, not our date of birth. I just literally just said you shouldn't put your date of birth down. This is your name, your address, your contact details, things like that. Then we've got our opening summary. That's a paragraph or so, just saying this is who I am, this is why I'm great, basically. We've got our work experience, we've got our education, and we've got our skills and strengths. Now, there's no such thing as like a universally accepted CV. There's no such thing as like, this is what all CVs should look like. Everyone's CV is going to be different. What you'll find, especially, it would depend on the stages of your career. So I've got quite a varied CV because I've had quite a lot of different roles. And as you might have gleaned from the fact that I do this training. So I'm a trainer, I'm a marketing writer, I'm a self-defense instructor. I was a trustee of a charity for a little while. I've done all sorts of things. So my CV is all over the place. So a lot of the designs that most people would say, this is what you should do for your CV, they don't work for me, because I've got to tailor my CV to a specific role while also taking into account the quite varied different qualifications and skills and experience that I have. So there is no one specific way to write a CV. However, there are a range of different things that you can bear in mind, and there are a range of things that you definitely have to include. So what we've put here is what we think is a good way of structuring a CV, especially if you're not sure. My CV is very similar to this. I'm not saying that you need to completely reinvent the wheel with this. But this is basically what we should include. And we're going to go through each of these sections in more detail so we can give you some advice, exactly like Margot's just asked for. Some advice on writing an opening summary is coming up in a second. So our basic information: name, address, contact details. These are the most important ones. Email and mobile phone number. Make sure your email is professional. This is less of an issue anymore, but certainly I'm maybe showing my age now. My first email address was something incredibly embarrassing. I can't remember it now, but I think it was something along the lines of XX goth for life 666 XX @hotmail.com, because I was a little goth when I was a teenager. That's not a very professional email address. I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone that. My current email address is very professional. It's my name. That's what you're aiming for, really. If you have got an email address that's not very professional, that's maybe not clearly yours as well, really you want your email address to be your name, and then maybe if you have to put a number in, you can put a number in, but ideally it will be your name. Maybe you could use your middle name, maybe you could switch your surname and first name around to ensure that it is just your name at gmail.com or Hotmail or MSN or however you want to do that. Necessary visas. If you are not originally from the UK, if you're here on a visa, then a company will want to know that you have permission to work in the UK. So if you've got that visa, you want to put that straight away at the top of your CV, because that's probably the first question they're going to ask. Do you have a full UK driving license, and do you have a car? A lot of roles will want to see that. That's very relevant. And do you have a link to a portfolio? So we've got a few graphic designers on the course. on the webinar tonight. If you have a portfolio, you'll want to provide a link to that, because you're not going to be able to put your complete portfolio on your CV. But if you've got it online on a website, which I'd really recommend that you do, then you can pop your portfolio on a link on your CV, and so someone can go and find that. Your opening summary, so this is your elevator pitch. So for those who don't know, an elevator pitch is essentially, imagine you were stuck in not even stuck, imagine you were taking a lift with somebody and you wanted to pitch an idea to that person, but you only had the length of that lift ride between floors, so only sort of a minute maybe max. How would you sell them on that idea within that 1 minute of traveling in that elevator with them? That's basically what your opening summary is, because this is your kind of 7 seconds of recruiter. This is the first thing they're going to see, and it needs to be punchy. It needs to immediately tell your employer that you have what it takes and what they need. So 2 or 3 sentences, doesn't have to be long, and actually you probably shouldn't make it long because it's just going to take up more space in your CV. 2 or 3 sentences, it's the introduction to yourself. So who are you? What is it that you do? You know, again, if I was thinking about myself, let's say I was going for this job that I've got right now, this job as a trainer. If I was putting an opening summary for this particular job, I would say, I am a skilled and experienced trainer who has delivered sessions to hundreds, if not thousands of people and businesses, including blah, 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 and blah. You know, that's my pitch. I've got loads of experience doing this. I'm good at it and I've got loads of experience doing it. That's why you should hire me, because I am great at this particular role and I've got loads of experience with it. That would be a good elevator pitch, I would think, for a CV. That's pretty much my elevator pitch on my CV. You could also include your motivation for applying to the role. Why do you want to apply for the role? And you can include an interesting fact to show your personality. So an interesting fact about me, I'm a professional wrestler. I know, yet another thing that I'm adding to my CV. So every so often I dress up in a fancy costume and I go and I pretend to fight someone and we slam each other all over a ring and we all get very injured. And then the crowd cheers and boos us and we go home. That, I think, is an interesting fact about me. Not many applicants for a role are going to be professional wrestlers. And I can spin that and I can say, well, I'm also a professional wrestler. So I'm used to hostile crowds if I'm applying to be a trainer. I'm used to being able to manage a crowd, manage a room, and deal with hostility. That's what you get from being a professional wrestler. There we go. I've added that interesting quirk, but I've also showed that it's actually relevant to the role. So we do want to be concise with this. So an example would be, I'm a recent graduate of economics looking for analyst roles. I have experience working effectively within teams and leading projects, delivering engaging presentations and networking with others. I've completed 2 internships which helped to develop my analytical skills, and I have also volunteered as a treasurer for my local community centre for the past 2 years. I am passionate about finance and helping people to look after their money. There we go. Nice, simple, not that long, opening summary that says, this is who I am and this is why you should hire me. Your work experience comes next. Now you want your most recent at the top, and it wants to go in reverse chronological order. So the most recent work experience followed by the next most recent and the next most recent, and so on and so forth. You want to basically, each one is a little mini section in itself, and it should start with the company, your job title, and the dates when you work there. So one of mine might be, I worked for I don't know, Red Media Marketing. I'm just making a name off the top of my head, but hopefully that makes sense. I worked for Red Media Marketing. I was a marketing assistant and I worked there from October 2013 until January 2016. There we go. That would be the way that you would put that. So I'd put that literally, Red Media Marketing, marketing assistant, October 2013 to January 2016. There's your sort of heading for that section. Key projects and results. That's what you want to put there. A lot of people think you want to put your kind of average duties. So as part of this role, I wrote marketing copy for a range of different businesses. I managed a team of marketers, blah, 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 blah. Everybody who worked for that role did those things. And you can probably guess, if you say that you were a marketing assistant, they can probably guess that you did some marketing. You don't really need to put that there. That's not impressive. What's impressive is, did you work on any key projects? Did you get any great results? Do you have any metrics? Specifically, remember numbers. Recruiters love numbers. Did you increase sales by a certain percentage? Did you create a piece of work that reached 100,000 people? You know, what did you actually do? Volunteer work counts here. So if you volunteered for an organization, that still counts as work experience. So still put that down. If you've got loads and loads and loads of experience, I mean, again, I've got sort of 10 years of experience, well, more than that, because I started, my first job was when I was 16. So I've got nearly 15 years of work experience that I need to condense into one page. And I haven't worked for one company. As I've said, I've worked for tons and tons and tons of companies. So by the time I get to my first few jobs, basically, I'm just putting down company job title and dates. You know, I worked in a bookshop when I was 16, not really relevant to my current job. So all people need to know is, yes, I was employed at that time. We don't need to put down anything else other than that, just the basic terms of I was employed. Education and achievements, again, it works the same way. So most recent at the top, then your next most recent and next most recent. Academic qualifications and professional qualifications both count. So again, I've got my BTEC in self-defense instruction. That's a qualification that I would put at the top because it's the most recent one I've got. I've got a degree, I've got A-levels, I've got GCSEs, but so we're putting them. You also want to put, usually you want to put the institution that awarded you the qualification. So, you know, my university, for example, for a degree, your high school for your GCSEs, the organization that gave me my BTEC is what I would put there. Again, include any key projects, any research that you undertook, anything that you specialized in, anything that marks you out as above and beyond. Did you get an award, for example? Were you in the top percentage of your class, for example, if you know that? Anything like that that you can add to your CV is going to make you look even better. You also want to put your skills and strengths. So what qualities do you have that make you a good possible employee? We're looking for both hard skills and soft skills, and we'll get into them in a second. But make sure we're relating them back to that job description. How are these important? Why are these important? You know, be able to you know, cook a fantastic omelette because this person looks like he works in a restaurant. Being able to cook a fantastic omelette, is that actually relevant to the job at hand? It's a skill. I can cook a great omelette. Not something that I put on my CV, but if I was going for a job at a French restaurant, maybe I would put that down. So make sure it's relevant to the job you're applying for. When we're showcasing our skills, we want to be thinking about soft, hard, and digital skills. And broadly, that's the areas that we can split our skills into. There's going to be some crossover there, and there's not really, the definitions I'm about to give, they're not hard and fast. There is some crossover and there are some sort of fuzzy bits, but broadly that's what we're looking for. So soft skills, these are generally, the way that I would describe it, our hard skills are things that you could get a qualification in. Soft skills are things that we couldn't get a qualification in. So something as general as leadership, teamwork, communication, these are more kind of personal skills. Resilience, confidence, being good at timekeeping, self-motivated, adaptable. All of these are soft skills. You're not going to be able to get an MVQ in adaptability or a BTEC in confidence or a degree in teamwork. But they are still relevant. Actually, a lot of recruiters are more interested in your soft skills than your hard skills, because again, a lot of jobs, everyone who applies is going to have the same basic hard skills. So the soft skills are going to be what sets you apart from other people. So don't neglect these, especially if you've got clear evidence that you can use to show this is what demonstrates that you have those skills. Hard skills, again, broadly speaking, they're the things that you could get qualifications in, even if you don't have qualifications. So, for example, you might speak Spanish. That might not be something that you have a qualification in, but you could get one. You could get a degree in Spanish. You could get a variety of qualifications in Spanish. So we would count that as a hard skill. So these are things, and they're things that can be very empirically proven as well. You could get an exam in these. Your employer could go, right, you've proved that you speak Spanish. Here we go. Here's another Spanish speaker. Prove that you speak Spanish. And they could very easily tell whether you do or you don't. So language skills, marketing skills, IT skills. So, you know, can you Do you know anything about search engine optimization? Can you use Microsoft Excel really well? Are you good at accounting? Things like that. And then digital skills, basically digital skills are just hard skills again, but they're hard skills specifically that are on computers that are digital. So again, Microsoft Excel is a digital skill, spreadsheets, video editing that we've mentioned before, social media marketing is a digital skill. A lot of the skills that we mentioned earlier, in fact, I think all of the skills we mentioned earlier were all digital skills. So they're all hard skills. So we do want to think about our soft skills as well. They are the things that most people would neglect when it comes to writing down what we're good at. We need to then define our strengths. So what are you good at? What do you like doing? What makes you stand out? Feel free, by the way, if you want to share what your strengths are, pop them down in the chat. Let's have a look at them. For example, so I'm caring. I think that's a strength of mine. I want to make sure everyone is okay. I want to make sure I'm putting their needs first. I would say that is a strength when I run things like these training sessions, when I run self-defense sessions. I always approach them from a point of view of caring. I want people to feel content and happy and comfortable so that they will be better able to learn. So that I think would be a strength of mine. It's not a skill. It's not something I feel like I have to work at. Strengths are just kind of things that we do without thinking about them. Benedict summed them up really well in the chat, actually. The strengths that are things that we're often not aware of them because they're often something that we're just good at without thinking. We don't have to try them. This is why it can be a really good idea to get somebody who knows you well and ask them, what am I good at? What are my strengths? When you think about me, what do you think about? What do you think I'm good at? Here's some examples, strengths. Again, these are all soft skills. These are all things that we count as soft skills. Enthusiasm, solution focused, passionate, hardworking, adaptable, caring, analytical. These are all examples of strengths. So have a think, are there any of these that apply to you? Do you have any strengths? Again, share them in the chat if you'd like. Let us know what your strengths are and ask your loved ones, ask your friends and family what they think your strengths are as well. When we're describing our experience, so when we put our work experience, our job experience, our educational experience, how do we do that? Ultimately, all your experiences, they're things that cover a particular strength, but things that cover a particular skill. So we want to be honest about that. We want to use our experience in ways that are going to showcase who we are as a person. So again, let's say we've said that we are passionate and driven. Let's say we've said that those are two of our strengths, passion and drive. And we had experience as a sales manager. Well, how did you showcase your passion and drive through that experience? Did being passionate and driven help you in that role? Was it something that made you really good at that role? That's a good way of describing your experience. And again, relate it all back to the role that you're applying for. We want to show our employer that we've got really great potential in this role. Even if you've got no experience in that particular field, let's say you're going for a complete career change, you've got no experience whatsoever. We want to demonstrate how the things that you do have experience in are both they're good descriptors of your strengths, but they're relevant to the role. They give you a lot of potential for this role, even though you don't have any experience with it yet. Think about how we reflect upon this experience. What did you do? What did you achieve? And how does this relate to the role? We're banging that drum a lot, but it's really important. How does this experience relate to the role? What did you achieve? Again, we want numbers ideally. These are all things that we want to put on our CV as much as we can. Now, on the less sort of intricate side of things, we want to make sure our CV looks good. Formatting our CV is really important. So there's loads of different ways we can do that. Here is just some layout examples. You don't have to lay them out like this. It's good to have your contact details at the top. Remember, those are probably the most important things. And most people will put their contact details at the top. So those are the things that most recruiters will be looking for. Opening summary, we also want to put near the top. As close to the top as possible, because again, we want that to be our elevator pitch. We want that to be our first impression. But then the rest of it, we can lay it out however we want to. These are just examples of what we want to showcase. The biggest section is probably going to be dictated by how much of certain things that you have. So the biggest section is going to be the one, if you've got loads of experience, loads of different work experience, that's going to be your largest section. If you've only got a little bit of experience, maybe you want to really highlight your skills and your strengths, for example. If you're looking for ways that you can showcase, there are templates online. Here are some of the places you can find those templates. So Google Docs, Canva.com or Jobseeker.com, all of those have got CV templates that you can use. And as far as I'm aware, they're all free to use as well. So do use them and edit them to make them your own so that they match you and match your personality. But as long as you'll make sure that they're readable and they're professional. Editing your CV is another step as well. So when we use templates, what we want to do is use them and change them so they match who we are and what we want to get across. So you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, we've got some really sort of visual templates. And especially if you're going for like graphic design roles or marketing roles, things where being visual is important, maybe you want to showcase some of that on your CV. On the other hand, we might want to be really, really professional with it and be a little bit more bare bones. It's kind of up to you. Again, when we're looking through that CV and we're editing it, we want to be really, really focused on results, examples, and active verbs. What did you do? Did you lead? Did you deliver? Did you create? Did you provide a service? Tell me what you actually did, rather than just saying, while I was there, sales went up by 50%. What did you specifically do to get sales up by 50%? So, for example, instead of I managed the sales team for 1 year, that's pretty bland. We want to really, really showcase like why we are great. So instead of I managed the sales team for 1 year, I led my team. Leadership is really good as a quality. People want to see leadership. I led my team to exceed the 2023 sales target by 15%. We've got a great number there. And what that shows is that, yeah, you did obviously, that still says that you managed the sales team. You couldn't lead the sales team without managing them. But what did you actually achieve at that time? That's more important. Another example, we've got click here to read my portfolio. Well, if there is a link to your portfolio, that's great. Although make sure that a lot of people are going to be printing out CVs. So be careful. You don't want to send them something with a link that then they're not going to be able to click. But if you've got a link to your portfolio, brilliant. Show examples. Do you have a blog? Do you have a news article that you wrote? Do you have any pieces of work that you could share? Show them and show them to your employer. And then using active verbs. I increased client retention by improving communication. Improve client retention by elevating communication is maybe a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more active. When we're tailoring our CV, one thing you can do is you can create a long version with everything in loads and loads and loads of detail. So maybe a 2, 3, or 4 page CV, and you won't actually send that out to anybody. But what you've got is then basically you've got all of the bits of your CV that you could ever want to put in one place. And so when it's time to send out your CV, you can copy and paste different bits from it and put that in the shorter version that you actually send out to clients. So you can make sure that your CV is tailored for each job description without having to rewrite it every time you apply for a job. So that will make it a lot quicker for you. So a question for all of you, what changes to your CV are you going to make after this session? Let's hope that you're going to make some fantastic changes. And of course, I wish you the best of luck with it. I hope that you are successful in your job hunting. Let's see if we have any questions that I haven't that I've missed. I think we're all good. Chiharu, that's fantastic to hear that you, after years of working as a web content manager, you've discovered empathy as one of your strengths, and that's why you're switching career. That's fantastic, and that's a great narrative that you can put on your CV, that again, a recruiter is going to be really glad to see that. So that's fantastic. Any other questions? I am going to be signing off now, but if you do have any questions, there's still time, so pop them in the chat, and if I see them, I will get to them. But I'm going to start signing off now. So first of all, we'd love your feedback on these sessions. We always love feedback on these sessions. Tells us what we did right, tells us what we did wrong. If you let us know, it means we can make these better for everybody, and we can make these fantastic as possible. So do leave feedback. You can either use the web address there, bit.ly/ and those numbers and letters, or you can scan the QR code on the screen there, and that's going to take you straight to our feedback form. So do that. It really helps us. We'd really appreciate it. And then that is everything. So I hope that's been useful. If you're interested in learning more, again, we've got loads of different webinars. You can find all of our webinars in the link in the video description. And apart from that, the only thing left to say is thank you. So a big thank you to Benedict. I'm sure Benedict would appreciate if you shared your appreciation in the chat. Benedict's been a fantastic moderator. He's been, obviously, you've seen that he's been right on it with replying to people and giving fantastic information and great answers. So massive thank you to Benedict. He also stepped in on short notice for this webinar, so double thank yous for that. Thank you all of you for attending. Thank you for your questions and your comments. You've been absolutely fantastic. It's been a pleasure running this webinar for all of you. And the only thing left to say is I hope that you've had a fantastic time, and I will see you on another Google Digital Garage session, I hope, in the future. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.